Unlock the fascinating story behind artificial intelligence and its roots at IITs. Why is this historical moment crucial?
Welcome to this explainer on the origins of intelligent machines. Today we're diving right into how artificial intelligence evolved, going all the way from early, kind of abstract theoretical concepts straight into the absolute technological powerhouse it is today. Let's get right to it.
I want you to picture this, right from our source material. Imagine a world where machines think autonomously, learning and evolving beyond their initial programming. I mean, it sounds a lot like science fiction, doesn't it? But really, that idea of a world governed by thinking machines, it carries this incredibly evocative, almost mysterious tone. But here's the thing. This is absolutely not some distant fantasy. It's a reality that's literally been unfolding for decades now. This is a story driven not just by, cold hard code, but by raw ambition and some truly groundbreaking innovation. So why does this history actually matter to us right now? Well, because this frontier fundamentally alters our world on two massive levels. First, it directly shapes the everyday technology we literally rely on. And second, because of that, it redefines the very fabric of our society. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a revolution that completely changes how humanity operates. Part 1. The Catalyst. Alan Turing's foundational question.
Looking at the timeline, the mid-20th century saw a wild, rapid burst of innovation. You had pioneering researchers actually starting to question if machines could think. Then, bam, 1950 hits, and Alan Turing publishes his groundbreaking paper. And right around that same time, in the 1950s, we see global centers of excellence, like the IITs in India, being established to push these exact technological boundaries.
Let's zoom in on that pivotal moment in 1950. Fresh off his legendary code-breaking work during World War II, Turing publishes this paper titled Computing, Machinery, and Intelligence. And listen, this wasn't just some dry academic article. It literally laid the groundwork for the entire field of artificial intelligence. It planted a seed that just kept growing right alongside early computing. At the very heart of that paper was one foundational puzzle. What does it actually mean for machines to think? Think about that for a second. Way before we even had the processing power to run complex code, Turing was forcing humanity to define thought itself. He was asking if a machine could ever genuinely replicate it. Crazy, right?
Part 2. The Infrastructure, Rise of Global Tech Institutes.
Now, Turing's ideas were brilliant, but they needed fertile ground to actually grow. So across continents, we saw all these institutions sprouting up. They were creating this vast network of physical spaces where brilliant minds could just gather, collaborate, and really push the absolute limits of this emerging technology. A prime example of this massive new infrastructure would be the Indian Institutes of Technology, or IITs. Established in the 1950s, just shortly after India's independence, they emerged from this global backdrop of intense scientific exploration. They position themselves as these premier centers of excellence, completely dedicated to cultivating the kind of brilliant minds needed to drive AI forward.
Part 3. The Unsolved Intersection.
When we look at the evolution of intelligent machines, it relies on this monumental leap. I mean, we start with initial programming, where a machine just follows basic orders, right? But the ultimate goal is autonomous thinking, and then eventually learning and evolving entirely on its own. Bridging that massive gap from basic code to true intelligence, that is arguably the greatest technological hurdle in human history. And to actually make that leap, you need what we can call the two pillars of AI. First up, you have human intellect, that intense curiosity, ambition, and those foundational questions asked by people like Turing. Then you have institutional support, the engineering excellence and backing from places like those early tech institutes. The evolution of autonomous machines relies entirely on this super delicate, complex relationship between individual genius and massive infrastructure. But that actually brings up a really fascinating mystery. How exactly did the establishment of these institutes fortify the advancement of AI? Like, what were the specific, intricate mechanics that took Turing's theoretical, abstract seeds and rapidly accelerated them into the reality we see today? Which leaves us with one profound, overarching question to think about. How did these early ideas evolve and intersect over the years to create the intelligent machines of today? Our sources suggest this intersection is really the core mystery of the whole AI revolution. I want you to look at the technology around you today and just consider the decades of human curiosity and institutional power that had to perfectly align to make it all possible. What's the next leap going to look like? Thanks for exploring this explainer with me, and definitely keep questioning the world around you.
Discover the groundbreaking events that propelled artificial intelligence into the global spotlight, transforming how we live and work today. The journey began decades ago with a simple question: can machines think? This spark led to decades of research and innovation. In 1997, the world watched the legendary match between IBM's Deep Blue and chess champion Garry Kasparov, a turning point for machine intelligence. But the story isn't just about corporations. Crucial algorithms were often crafted by brilliant minds, including world-class IIT graduates. These researchers laid the foundation for deep learning, enabling machines to learn from patterns just like the human brain. Today, AI powers everything from autonomous vehicles to medical breakthroughs, evolving faster than we ever imagined possible. Journey with us through the lesser-known facts and astonishing breakthroughs of artificial intelligence. The future is being written right now.
Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, listen, we're definitely not talking about killer robots today, I promise. You're tuning in because you probably already follow this stuff, right? You're using artificial intelligence literally every single day. But do you know the actual history and the massive human machinery running behind the scenes? Today, we're completely stripping away the Hollywood magic. We're going to uncover the real truth behind AI. What it actually is, where it comes from, and who is truly driving the whole shebang forward. Section 1. The truth about AI. So, before we jump into the timeline, let's just ground ourselves for a second. At its core, artificial intelligence is absolutely not magic. It's rigorous engineering. We're talking about systems built upon a foundation of mathematical models, data structures, and machine learning principles. It is painstakingly constructed, line of code by line of code, math equation by math equation. To break that down a bit, think of mathematical models as the rules of the road. Then you've got data structures. Those are basically endless filing cabinets where all the information lives. And machine learning? Well, that's the engine actually recognizing the patterns in all that data. Every single large language model or recommendation algorithm you mess around with today relies entirely on this exact trinity. Section 2, Milestones in Machine Intelligence. You know, we kind of talk about AI like it just magically dropped out of the sky a couple years ago, but the timeline is actually way longer than that. I want you to really picture this. It's 1966, the Beatles are dominating the radio, the space race is absolutely peaking, and a guy named Joseph Weizenbaum is quietly inventing ELIZA, literally the very first chatbot. Fast forward to 1997, and you have IBM's Deep Blue defeating world chess champion Garry Kasparov, a total watershed moment for complex problem solving. And that incredible journey leads us straight into our present day, which is just this massive ongoing quest for even more intelligent systems. Now, comparing these two historical breakthroughs reveals two completely different sides of the technology. Deep Blue, that was brute force logic, the ultimate calculator. When it won in 97, it totally shifted how the public viewed what machines were capable of. But ELIZA was different. ELIZA wasn't trying to win a game, it was just trying to converse. In a lot of ways, ELIZA is the true spiritual ancestor to the generative AI we're all so obsessed with right now. And this is where it gets wild. ELIZA's surprisingly human-like interactions raised ethical questions way before AI became a mainstream topic. It's just absolutely fascinating because people actually started treating this simple script like a real therapist. They were getting deeply emotionally attached to just a few lines of code. Decades before we were arguing about smartphone algorithms, Weizenbaum's 1966 creation was already sparking these heavy conversations about human-computer interaction. It just goes to show how nuanced this history for sure is. Section 3. The Human Engine. Okay, we've spent a lot of time talking about the machines themselves, right? The chatbots, the chess computers, the algorithms. But actually, scratch that. Machines don't just build themselves. We really have to look at the human engine. Institutions like the IITs, the Indian Institutes of Technology, have been massive catalysts here. They've trained entire generations of engineers and computer scientists who developed these algorithms and enhanced computing power across literally every field, from finance all the way over to healthcare. And the staggering number I want you to take away from this is 1 million. More than 1 million. Since they were established, the IITs alone have produced over 1 million graduates. That is 1 million human engines of innovation. And a lot of those folks have gone on to lead pivotal tech companies worldwide, driving the exact innovations you and I rely on today. Honestly, this single number just perfectly showcases the immense transformative potential of education. When you invest in human minds, you get the scientific breakthroughs that change the world. Section 4. What lies ahead? So we've stripped away the sci-fi. We've looked at the rigorous engineering foundations, jumped from a 1966 chatbot to a chess champion, and recognized the millions of human minds powering the whole thing. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on. What challenges and triumphs await in the journey toward more intelligent systems? As we move from brute force chess engines to systems that actually mimic human empathy, the real question isn't just what these machines will learn to do. It's what we're going to learn about ourselves in the process. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer. Keep asking those great questions, and I will see you next time.
Explore the present and future of artificial intelligence. How are IITs leading the charge in revolutionary technologies like quantum computing?
Welcome to this explainer. Right now, global AI investment is crossing hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, it's a massive technological explosion that is literally reshaping our reality. Today, we're taking a really thrilling journey from that massive global surge straight into the cutting-edge labs of the Indian Institutes of Technology, the IITs, to see exactly how their groundbreaking research is shaping this AI revolution. And ultimately, we'll look at what it all means for our shared humanity. Okay, let's dive into this by asking the ultimate question. Is the future defined by machines or by us? That single, incredibly powerful tension is right at the core of everything we're going to unpack today. We're looking at the ultimate intersection of bleeding-edge technology and core human values. Section 1. The Global AI Surge. So we are currently living in a moment where the relevance of artificial intelligence is it's more pressing and massive than ever before in human history. The sheer scale of what's happening globally is absolutely breathtaking. And what's driving it? Well, deep learning and neural networks are the underlying architectures here. We aren't just talking about basic algorithms anymore, right? These are highly complex models processing billions of parameters, recognizing patterns at a scale that fundamentally alters how we solve problems. And look, this isn't just confined to a server room. Because of those architectures, we're witnessing a massive wave of tangible AI applications integrating directly into our daily routines. I mean, they're in the self-driving cars navigating our chaotic city streets and the personal assistants predicting our schedules before we even wake up. To put that into perspective, billions of voice queries are processed every single month now. It's a complete, total integration into the very fabric of our daily lives. Section 2. The Ethical Automation Maze. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it highlights a major conflict. We need to slow down for a second, because with all this rapid, almost dizzying advancement comes some severe friction. As humans, we're finding ourselves suddenly having to navigate this complex, sometimes wild automation maze. On one side, we have this relentless drive to enhance machine intelligence, but colliding right into it are massive ethical hurdles, encoded bias, data privacy, and the heavy moral implications of letting algorithms make human decisions.
Which brings us to a really critical realization. This isn't just some philosophical debate for academics. It dictates who gets approved for a mortgage, who gets hired for a job, and how our personal data is weaponized. The debate on how to ethically deploy these systems underscores a very real unease about how they integrate into our societal frameworks. Grappling with this ethical integration is arguably the defining challenge of our generation.
Section 3. Innovation Hubs, the IITs. So zooming in from that giant macro view, we see specific institutions actively rising to meet this demand, and there is a remarkably optimistic story unfolding at the Indian Institutes of Technology. The IITs have transformed from traditional classrooms into vital incubators for next-gen technology. It's a vibrant, high-stakes ecosystem where student and faculty collaboration is directly fueling dynamic startups and intense research initiatives. They have literally become breeding grounds for the future. Let's move to Section 4, Frontiers of IIT Research, and see how this builds. And this brilliantly illustrates what's happening on the ground. This ecosystem translates directly into tangible breakthroughs happening right now within these institute walls. Researchers are pushing the absolute frontiers of tech. In predictive analytics and robotics, they are seeing groundbreaking next-gen developments. But the true paradigm shift, that's happening in quantum computing. We are looking at research poised to completely revolutionize computational speed and efficiency, creating systems that can solve problems in seconds that would take traditional computers millennia to figure out. But how do you consistently manufacture these kinds of breakthroughs? Well, the crucial lesson we pull from the IIT model is the absolute necessity of cross-pollination. Fostering an environment where interdisciplinary collaboration can truly flourish is key. It's about tearing down the walls between departments and intentionally allowing creativity, human-centric education, and hard technology to intersect and play off one another. That environment is the real engine of innovation. Section 5. Designing Empathetic AI. Zooming back out to the philosophical horizon, we face a massive mandate. As the research dictates, the biggest challenge is ensuring that advancements in artificial intelligence are developed responsibly and empathetically, maintaining a focus on human values. As we embrace this exciting, uncharted terrain, our greatest hurdle isn't just figuring out how to make AI smarter or faster, it's making it distinctly responsible. So the crucial point is, innovation cannot be a blind pursuit of technological prowess. It has to be counterbalanced with an unwavering moral compass and a deep understanding of our ethical responsibilities. Raw, unguided computational power is a liability, not an asset, if it isn't anchored to those responsibilities. And that brings us to a beautiful, grounding truth. Amidst all these massive leaps in silicon and code, fostering human connections will remain our most powerful tool. It is our empathy and our collaboration that will ensure the future is shaped by humanity's vision and values, rather than merely being dictated by the cold, calculated logic of a machine. Which leaves us exactly where we began, but with a much heavier responsibility. In our relentless quest to create artificial intelligence, how will we ultimately define our own humanity? It's a profound question, and one I'll leave you to ponder. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.